Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
I really appreciate your participation with the Build Out live stream every Wednesday at noon Eastern Daylight Time. The stream will be starting in just 1 minute. In the meantime, let me take this opportunity to talk to you about the live streaming studio that I use to stream Build Out with Jim Kunkel. StreamYard is a live streaming browser-based studio that allows you to interview guests, share your screen, and much more. With StreamYard, you can multi-stream directly to your website, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and for those who qualify, live stream here on LinkedIn. So now's the time to start live streaming. In the event post and on the video description is a referral link for a $10 credit when you become a paid subscriber to StreamYard. Welcome to Build Out. I'm Jim Kunkel, and today I'm very pleased to announce my a guest that I've been really looking forward to interview, Mandy Gibbons. Mandy, welcome.
How you going? It's awesome to be on here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you. I've been so looking forward to this day. Mandy, if you could do a favor for the viewers, if you could provide your professional background and what you do for so many people.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm a resilience coach for men, and some people call me the resilience and vital force coach for men, because I also help men bring back their mojo a little bit as well. But that's very much coming from a place of resilience, because that's how we work from creating a really powerful inner resilience and inner strength, but also bringing vitality back into their lives as well, which also comes from emotional resilience, right? Yeah, so a lot of guys come to me, right, and they want to be like David Goggins, right, and then they go, I don't want to care about anything, I just want to tough it all out, and that's the perception that they have of him. So they kind of feel like they just want to be able to harden up even more, push all their emotions aside, and just like be incredibly tough. But that's not what resilience is all about, right? Resilience is very much about being able to ground yourself, be very aware of your emotions. My type of resilience is anyway. So all coaches are a little bit different, but specifically for me, it's very much about helping guys tap into their emotions, understanding that, so that then they can ground themselves and then become very powerful decision makers, because that's so important. Because when you're operating from a place of fear, that's when you start getting yourself in trouble, right? When you're angry, you're hurt, you're feeling betrayed, whatever it is, that's when you will start making decisions that are going to easily lead you down a path which can, you can spiral out of control very, 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 very quickly if you go down that way. So, and then also, it's also very important for people to be able to understand that by doing that, then they can lead very powerfully as well. Because if you know where you operate from, if you inner resilience is very much from your core. So if you come from that place and you're operating from your core and you're very decisive about that, it's much easier to set boundaries, to make decisions. It's a yes or no when someone comes to you. It's not like beating around the bush because you're not quite sure. Maybe you feel like, I don't want to hurt their feelings, because you're afraid of rejection yourself, right? So it kind of strengthens all these areas. And then it also helps with relationships and being able to communicate with conviction as well. So it's just, I love it, as you can tell. I'm super passionate about it. It's super important for me to have men's backs as well, because I do feel like that men get a bad rap a lot, when it comes to their emotions or whatever it is, so and when guys are feeling really overwhelmed, that's when they make decisions that aren't always the best for them. And so by supporting men, I also get to be able to support the people around them at the same time, right? Because they're making really healthy decisions and really living their full purpose in their lives at the same time.
Yeah, and I should have mentioned that you come from beautiful Western Australia. Are you around Perth? Is that where you're based out of?
About 3 hours south of Perth.
Okay, great, great. And the program that we're going to be talking about is your Resilient Man Lead Beyond Lockdowns. So, Mandy, I watch your posts all the time, and I get so much inspiration from them. They do make a big impact, and this topic that we're covering is so vital and important to talk about. Men deal with a lot of stress. What are some of the stresses in this current age, in this current time that we're in right now, that men are dealing with?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think it's really easy to just presume that men don't stress too much about things, because there's this bit of a perception that, men can be kind of aloof at times, but I don't believe that's the case. So maybe that's because I have men's back a little bit more. I don't know. But, the truth is men, usually keep what's going on inside them when they're really stressed out to themselves. So, if a guy is hit with challenge after challenge and he feels like he has to keep it to himself, eventually something's going to hit the fan, right, within him internally, because there's just no outlet for him. So the truth is you can feel, like emotionally, mentally and physically imprisoned at times. And, people talk about the physical and the mental, but the emotional often gets overlooked, like all the time, until someone hits breaking point, and then they sort of do something that they can't take back. So the more that you bring the best that you can to those around you emotionally, and then you're able to sort of like, because as a man, there's this perceived expectation that you're the white knight, right, who can't ever fall off the horse. So, and when that happens and you're like up here trying to keep everyone happy, then there's not much left of you to give, so you're kind of spent physically, mentally, emotionally, and even sexually at the same time. There's a lot of energy, and it really does clip your wings, so to speak.
Yeah, and it impacts you both in your professional life and also your personal life.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah.
What are some of the results that happen from the stresses? How do they manifest in a man's professional and personal life?
Well, in particular, because men are very much programmed, right, to be like the provider, the hunter-gatherer, the man who defends his family, the leader that everyone looks up to, as we were saying to you before, like the go-to guy who resolves problems. And, we are programmed as humans, but especially for men, to not let anyone see you struggle, right, to hide it and to feel like there's this perceived shame around sharing, your challenges and that. So automatically, straight off the bat, because you are feeling that, you automatically then become super secretive about it, right? And then the bigger the challenges become, the more your emotions start messing with you. And so it really puts a strain on all your relationships. And eventually, no matter how much you kind of appear stoic or think that you've got it together, so to speak, it will affect you personally and professionally. And this could be like in leadership positions. If you are taking care of people, it could be a team, or even just at home, or if you're, in leadership within the community, it will affect your decision making. And not only that, and just your energy in general, because if you're operating from a place of fear or anger or hurt or whatever it is, all of a sudden it has this ripple effect, right? Not just in your life, but with everyone else as well. And then if people are also coming to you for help at the same time, you're not going to be able to help them as effectively, because you then start eventually building walls around you, right? And so when you feel like you're getting backed into a corner and having to hide your emotions, and, quite often it's internal anguish, right? And we don't really talk about how, the anguish that guys go through. And so if you're, running short on options, on, where you're going to turn because you feel backed into a corner, then it's going to take its toll.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of times it can be hidden, but there are times where it can manifest. So let's move on and talk about the Resilient Man we'd be on
Yeah.
lockdown to your program. What was the genesis of the program? How did it start? Where did it kind of come from?
Yeah, well, obviously, it's got the name lockdown in it, but it was more about, for me, I mean, obviously there's an indication of what's going on at the moment, right, in the world, but more specifically, it was about emotional lockdown, feeling the pressure of feeling trapped with your emotions. And then, especially when you're going through challenges in life. And over the years, like coaching men, I've seen them like behind the scenes, like struggle, emotionally big time. And when they're doing their best to lead and trying to manage pressure while being under pressure at the same time. And then, saying that they feel like that they're trapped in like this emotional roller coaster that they just can't escape from. And so this is, men in all kinds of various positions of leadership. And often when men are in positions of leadership, no matter what that is, they may have done like heaps of courses on personal development, right? But they've never really been shown or experienced how to be okay with their emotions, right? Or how to manage them or how to understand them. So for a lot of them as well, their fathers or grandfathers or, their male sort of role models that they've been brought up with don't show their emotions either. So they've really got no guideline of where to go, right? And so that is such a huge part of resilience. And so I really want to be able to help guys be able to, like, step by step, we'll go through the steps in a second, step by step, be able to figure out how they can understand their emotions and move through that powerfully, so that then they're creating momentum in their lives and not sort of getting stuck and making decisions that they're going to regret later. And even if you do make a decision that you're not that happy with, if you're super resilient and you're operating from a place of having formidable resilience, because I'm very much like take it up a notch, right? Then you know that you're going to be able to have your back at any given time. Even if you make a decision that maybe wasn't the right one, you can change direction and adapt at any time.
Very good. For myself, my male role model was my grandfather, who, at the age of 30, joined into World War II, fought all the way over the Pacific. Actually, spent time in Australia when MacArthur was kicked out of the Philippines, and then went back island hopping all the way to Japan. My grandfather was a very tough person. He was the boys don't cry, you got to tough it up and everything like that. And later in life, I had the opportunity. My grandmother, after he had passed away, showed me pictures of myself when I was little, when we were at the beach, and my grandfather playing with me in the sand and playing in the. I don't remember any of it. So he had a soft side to him that I did not realize. But a lot of the things that I learned from him, and I appreciated the opportunity to have some time with him, obviously, and learn a lot from him. When we look at when I had taken a look at your program, there are some steps that you have in the program that are super beneficial. Could you go into just a little bit of detail? Some brief detail about each of those steps?
Yeah, absolutely, I can. So step one is stop the pain cycle. So, because emotions can get super complicated, and I like to keep things very straightforward. I mean, just who I am in general, I like to keep things fairly straightforward and simple. I'm very good at simplifying things and being able to break it down so that it's easy to understand. And so I come from that place with emotions and creating formidable resilience as well. So quite often emotions have you spinning around in circles, right? And so having the ability to simplify the process of being okay with feeling angry and, feeling shame, helpless, ignored, overwhelmed, frustrated, betrayed, it's really common to feel like that. But it's also super common to not like feeling like that as well. So, when you're spinning in that cycle of bottling it up and beating yourself up over it, it destroys trust in yourself and your ability to be the man that you want to be. So really it's about showing you how to be super masterful with your emotions and being able to identify them, along with, I also use neuroplasticity tools as well. So I've created an audio in that program to actually help you be able to ground yourself, calm yourself down, work through your emotions. Like, for example, just say you're in a heated discussion with someone, and you're probably going to say something not so good, right? So, walk away, use the neuroplasticity tools, or it could be anywhere, even if you're in a meeting, right, and you're just thinking, wow, I'm not real happy in this place that I'm in at the moment. You can even put your earbuds in and just listen to it. And it's only like, 6-7 minutes, and it just will calm you down, help you move through your emotions really, really quickly so that you can ground yourself and then just move on to, whatever's next. Because when you have that clarity, you can make better decisions for yourself, right?
Yeah. And the other thing, too, that I find fascinating with your program is you have a workbook that helps to reinforce, what's the benefit of the workbook?
Yeah, well, the workbook is really about being able to get the guys to be super creative with it, right? So I take you through the steps. There's 5 points. That was number 1, and so with that one and all the other with 3 of the other steps, we actually have 4 steps. So we've got exercises, which they do, and so they're sort of like diagrams and so forth. But you actually complete it, because I want you to be able to. It's really easy to sort of like listen to something, read something, and then really just not do anything with it, right? Or watch a video, not do anything with it. So this is really important, that they actually create what they want from in a resilient standpoint, and also understanding their emotions. So then they can identify them and they can move through them quickly. But also it helps you visualize it, because when you see things for yourself, it's a lot easier to imagine, right? So yeah, the second one, the second step is your resilient leader advantage, and that's where you choose to operate from in life. So where you operate from in life is going to impact how you make your decisions. And so it might seem really obvious, right? But it doesn't matter how incredible your goals are, or how, all the cool stuff that you want to be or do. But if you, as I said before, if you're operating from a place of fear, you're going to be making decisions in a cycle of emotions. And if you're spiraling out of control, your decisions are going to be like spiraling out of control as well. And if you're operating in a place of like fight and flight, there's no clarity, right? You lose your logic. And so you end up not being able to, and this is what the workbook is really good for, you're not able to like really be precise about where you want to go and where you want to operate from and how to take action on that. And so with creating formidable resilience, and what your leader advantage is exactly, how you do want to operate in life and how you want to operate emotionally as well. And also another point that I want to make in regards to this, there's a lot of like really radical self-honesty in it as well. So you have to be genuinely honest with yourself about how you're feeling. And this is why it's so good, because with all of us, but especially with men, it's like, it's not necessarily about lying to yourself, but you're not always honest about how you're feeling, right? But that's also because you don't know how to identify that either, right? So this is the honesty part actually helps you break it down so that you understand that. And the next one which is number 3, is powerful as heck decision making on the decisions that you can make now. So the busier you get, and the more you avoid your own stuff, the more you avoid making powerful decisions for yourself, right? And so if you don't make powerful decisions for yourself and you don't follow through on what you need to, then you start losing rapport with yourself. And when you lose rapport with yourself, the promises that you make to yourself, like they then become like super half-hearted, right? So you let yourself off the hook. And that's because you're a bit worried about the feeling of the unknown. But also the people that are around you at the same time. If you don't have rapport with yourself and you don't trust yourself, how can you lead effectively, right? How are others able to trust and have rapport with you, right? So, and this also taps into the being super decisive and effective decision making. You know, you can see how all this like falls into place, right? No one's going to trust your decisions if you don't trust yourself and you don't have rapport with yourself. Okay. Number 4 is resilient resourcefulness. So this is about releasing the pent up energy, because when you have pent up energy, you know, that's, you know, and emotions are really messing around, you know, in your heart and in your head, it's really important that you're able to release that. And not only that, when you're able to do that, it brings a little bit more fun and mojo back into your life, right? You want that vitality back, because it's very easy when you're going through challenges to just feel like you have no life left in you. You feel like you lose yourself, right? You lose your identity at the same time. And so it's very easy at that point, when you start to lose yourself and you're not able to make powerful decisions for yourself and you're bottling up your emotions, that you start to self-destruct. And then that's when you, and you know, and there's no judgment here. It can happen to anyone. It doesn't matter where you are in the supposed food chain of income or business or leadership or whatever it is. It's, you know, really important that you're able to be able to take a step back, so that, you know, you're not punching holes in walls. And there's no judgment on that either, right? Because if you're not taught how to release your emotions or how to identify them, that's why guys get frustrated, or females too, and they want to punch a hole in the wall or something like that. And then, but then when they do that, then they have that judgment of themselves, right? Then they hate themselves, because then they feel like they're a bad man, they're a bad person, they're a violent person or something, but they're really just, in most cases, you know, they just need a bit of aggression, you know, they just need to let that out. And so with number 4, it's about, you know, setting up a game plan for yourself, so that you know how to release that energy and really ground yourself, you know, for your sanity and your mojo as well. And number 5 is about reaching out for support, and it's creating your, you know, mighty resilience in a circle. So having mates that you can hang out with, obviously, you know, I get smashed with, you know, drinking, whatever you're doing off your faces, you know, bantering with, you know, talking about the good old days, you know, and being able to, you know, complain about how hard your life is. That's all good, right? But how many times and how many mates do you have actually that you know that you can jump on the phone, or that they can phone you, vice versa, and talk about what you're struggling with internally? Because, you know, and whether that's, you know, just a smaller challenge or to something big, because it's really good to be able to have someone and be very, very clear about who you have in your life that's in your corner, that can bear the weight of what you're going to share, you know, and they can say, hey brother, you know, like, I've been there, how can I help? Or simply, you know, letting you know that it's okay to feel like that, because that doesn't happen very often with guys. You know, when guys, they say, I don't have anyone like that, Mandy, you know, this is why I'm coming to you. And, you know, so it's very important that we're able to help blokes be able to know how to communicate with each other, but also be there for each other at the same time. And so I take the guys through an exercise to get clear on who their inner circle is and who can support them in areas of their life. Like, you may have someone who's really great at listening to you, but they may not be that wonderful at having a game of footy with you. And so you might need that game of footy. So you in this square, you've got, you know, that person's name, who's great at being able to play sport. And then you've got this person here, you know, who you know that you can talk to when you're, and who won't tell anyone else, and who can bear the weight of what your struggle is. So, and when you then do that, you're not expecting the dude who wants to play footy with you, who's really good at that, who doesn't understand how to communicate with you when you're, you know, struggling. You're not then expecting him to step up for you, right? Because he can't, because he doesn't know how.
Mandy, those are so critical and important steps. Thank you for sharing that information. So let's cover our final topic, and it's going to relate to resilience for men who choose to powerfully lead.
Yeah.
Men who are leaders, what are some of the challenges that they face today?
Yeah, definitely. Well, men that are in leadership positions, they're not only having to take care of themselves because they're, obviously in a position where there's a lot of things going on, right? There's a lot of fingers in the pie with what they have to take care of. And not only that, they also have like a team or a crew or, community, or it might, even be their household, right, that they're taking care of. And when they're struggling themselves, and often those people around them might be coming to them with their problems, right? I mean, if you think of someone who's in management, he might have, just say he's got like 30 people under him, right? They've all got their own life problems and challenges going on. Now, if they start coming to him and he's also struggling with his own stuff, that's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. And yet we kind of just expect men to be able to just move through that. And so, it doesn't matter if it's, 3 or 4 people that are coming to you, one person that's coming to you, or 30. The thing is that, if you're able to develop a really beautiful and powerful inner resilience within yourself, so that then you can, you're then able to ground yourself when everyone else is stressing out. You're able to just get some clarity and go, okay, then this is what's happening, or how can I help you? Or you can even be resourceful and help them make decisions for what they should do. Like you might be able to say, well, hey, there's a mental health worker over here, you can go and speak to them. I know a really cool chick named Mandy Gibbons in Western Australia. You can have a chat to her. You know what I mean? So it helps you become very resourceful as well, and that's so incredibly important. And not only that, whether it's home or whatever, there's always like in-house politics as well, right? That's a lot of pressure. And so it's really important to be able to understand your emotions, be very incredibly emotionally resilient, and be able to move through those, so that then when all that is going on, you know where you stand, right? You know how to set your boundaries, and you don't get dragged into that, because it's when you get dragged into that's when emotionally it gets too much, and you'll start to spiral downwards really, really quickly without even realizing it. And it might have been just like a bad hour, what it's now turned into like a bad month.
Are there any other best practices that you recommend for male leaders?
Yes, definitely. Well, resilience, because it's my superpower, and helping leaders create that in their lives. Here's what I will say on the type of resilience, coaching that I bring to leaders. So, and we've spoken a little bit about this before, but when you have the ability to problem solve, you then become like an incredible powerhouse for yourself, right? So you get to perform at your best and leverage your strengths, and then you get to build new, like incredible new strengths and skills, like more efficiently. You get to create peace and security and safeness within yourself, which is that alone, to be able to bring peace to yourself is so incredible. And you get to build more resilience in your everyday life as well without even realizing it. And you get to put yourself back in the driver's seat, which is incredibly important when you're going through struggles and you're feeling like you're losing your mojo in whatever area of life that you're losing your mojo, right? And you're able to communicate with conviction because you know where you operate from, right? And that includes boundaries and everything in that. And you're able to deal with your emotions, so without having to push them aside. So it really is incredibly, when you think, if you list all those down, you know what I mean, and tick, 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 you can see how effective it is for leadership and how game-changing it is, right?
So, Mandy, for those who are wondering, how do you provide coaching services? How do you provide those?
Yeah, definitely. Well, my clients are, I often get like local clients, but, also within the whole of Australia and overseas. And actually some of my very first clients that I had when I first started coaching online years ago were actually from the United States and the UK before I even had any Aussie clients. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So I coach one-on-one via Zoom, and it's audio or via phone. And I use audio specifically because, I've found that when men are going through challenging times, and especially if there's a lot of emotions there, they don't always want to be like face to face with you, you know what I mean? So they can then, if they need to pace around and talk on the phone or whatever they need to do, it just makes it easier for them, when we're able to communicate a little bit better. They feel there's less pressure on them, right? So the one-to-one coaching is via Zoom, audio or by phone, and also via WhatsApp, the support in between the sessions. So there's WhatsApp via Facebook Messenger or by Facebook Messenger. Sorry, we've got a plane flying overhead here. So
that's okay.
That's it. It's nearly there. Okay, I'll repeat that again. So the support is via WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger in between calls. And because it's a really big step for guys from a vulnerability point of view, and so I really value them coming to me big time, and for me to be able to stand by their side during challenging and amazing times too. I also have one-to-one coaching which is done just specifically by chat, and that's because a lot of guys are working away, especially if it's like guys in leadership positions that are working away at mines or oil and gas. So they don't always have phone reception, right? So I work it so that then, because I have Wi-Fi, so it's just like text or recorded voice messages back and forth. So that's specifically, for situations like that. And then I have Fire Pit, which is, it's called Fire Pit Formidable Resilience Group Coaching Program for Men. Basically, that's designed around the feel of a fire pit, right? So we all know what a fire pit's like. It's an amazing place to gather around, right? Have conversations, safety, calmness, openness, understanding, and sort of like confidentiality and mateship and connecting. So that's very much the energy that I bring to that as well. So there's those three options, as well as the program that we've just spoken about.
And then you also have a podcast too, correct?
Yeah, I sure do. Thank you very much for mentioning that. That's so nice of you. It's called the Mandy Gibbons Podcast Show, and it's very much about, we cover everything from men's mental health, but it's really about having men's back, and it does talk a lot about resilience, but we share a lot, of really powerful stories and journeys that men have been through and challenges in their life and how they dealt with their own emotions. And it's everything from like marriage breakup, coming back from suicide, to losing companies, to people having, terrible car accidents and just losing everything in their life because of that, losing their businesses. It's just, so because I really want men to be able to listen to something like this and go, oh man, like I so get that, I feel that, and I wish that I had access to these type of tools and this type of information, long before now. So, and this is what's so great about the world at the moment, right? There's more and more people opening up to this so that we can help men. And so I absolutely love having guests on sharing their stories. And it's very conversational. We never know what's going to take place in it, so it's kind of a bit of exciting at the same time, and there's no limits on the conversation, right? Because I think it's really important that you can segue a little bit in conversations like that when people are going through their journeys and how they're dealing with things. So yeah, I feel really honored to be able to bring those stories.
And then the podcast, is it available on any providers, or is it just through your website?
It's on YouTube and on Facebook as well. And then I also have the MP3 version, which is through Apple and Google Podcasts and, quite a few other platforms. I think there's about 13 MP3 platforms that it's on.
Very available. You can just search your name, Mandy Gibbons, search your name to get to it?
Yes, that's it. So my website is mandygibbons.com. And then I'll just bring up my notes with my links for that, because you know how you have Facebook is mandy.gibbons.coach. LinkedIn is just Mandy Gibbons, and Instagram is Mandy _Gibbons_coach. So yes. And then YouTube is really just type in, Mandy Gibbons podcast show and it will come up. Or Mandy Gibbons Resilience is probably the easiest thing to get hold of me for anything. Just type that into Google, yeah.
And I don't know if you mentioned your website. What was your website again?
mandygibbons.com.
.com. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Mandy, before we would close out this broadcast, is there anything that we didn't talk about, or is there any last message you would like to leave to the viewers?
I do have a favorite quote, and it's actually my quote, but I really like it because it just rings so true, right? And I like to use this often, and that's it always starts off with the brutal truth, motivation, putting on a mask, and willpower have limits, but your formidable resilience doesn't. And
Excellent.
So. Yeah, and that's very, very powerful, when you break it down. But it's just basically it's saying, you have limits on willpower and the masks and everything that you put on, but your formidable resilience just opens doors for you big time, right? You get to take the blinders off and you're able to create so many more options in your life for yourself.
Yeah, so true, so true. Mandy, it's been very fun. I appreciate this opportunity. I really have been looking forward to this, and I encourage everyone to go to Mandy's website, check out her podcast, and also YouTube channel. Take a look at some of the videos you put on LinkedIn and elsewhere. Very motivational, very inspirational, and perfectly timed in some situations. So I appreciate everything you do, and I'm so glad to have you on my broadcast.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for all the amazing work that you do too. I'm very, very honored to be on here. And and I have taken a look at some of your other work as well. And it's just, it's incredible what you're doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mandy. Hey, have a great day.
Yes, you too. Thank you. See you later, everyone.